Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Jenny. Thank you very much for everybody to be here, and thank you very much to Chulalongkorn University to host this event this morning. I will be very brief because I will spend with you later on as a chair of the panel, so I don't want to mobilize the attention just now. I will do it later, don't worry. But maybe just a quick introduction to what it is. First, the European Union. Well, needless to say, we have set up a nice exhibition just outside here. It is 60 years of the European Union. We've been building that. We have a strong integration of 28 countries. And I would say more importantly for today, because we're talking about sustainable development, the EU is the largest development partners in the world, and by a big margin. So we are very proud to be supporting effort all over the world to reduce poverty, to reduce inequality, and to promote sustainable development. Again, I think we will have a coffee break later, so please enjoy the exhibition next door. Then maybe a few lines on the European Development Days. This is what it is. This is our picture, inviting picture for these European Development Days. Those days took place last Thursday, Friday in Brussels. This is an annual event that the European Union organizes. It's the largest event that we do in Europe to celebrate the work in development and also to network between all the partners involved in development all over the world. It's a big event. I mean, we had 6,000 people last week in Brussels to discuss development. So that's an interesting forum for us. It's a landmark in the year. We are trying to organize things around it in Brussels as well as in the rest of the world, and this is what we do here. We take one area, which is for today, you have seen in the invitation, it's about small, medium businesses and the SDG and the interaction between both. The subject is quite broad, and maybe I'll give you a few hints to that later, but that will also be to our panelists as well to give us their interpretation of what that means. What is important here is, of course, this event back in Brussels and here is a multi-stakeholder event. So we have people from all walks of life. We have private sector people, we have NGOs, we have university, think tanks, development partners, international organizations, government people. So it's really a mix because at the end of the day, the sustainable development is the objective for everybody, and everybody has to contribute to it. This is not something that development partners such as us have as their own goal and we deliver for the rest of the world. This is really something that everybody should contribute to, hence the multi-stakeholder approach. For us, the key element since 2015 is, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2030 that we all signed in September 2015 in the UN. It's a commitment for the EU, within the EU as well as outside. So we are committed to deliver on the SDGs for the European population, but we are also committed to support our partner countries all over the world with the same objective. And that's really the part where development partners comes in. We are putting money out, we are putting ideas out, and we are trying to help all our partners to deliver on that. What is important here is that we do have a number of, I would say, different approaches. The first one is a differentiated approach. And I mean, you can look at that picture and you can tell where this young boy is coming from. It is differentiated. We are not talking about poverty development in Thailand as we talk about poverty development in Mali or in Senegal. I guess it's Senegal because of the tree. Basically, we will discuss here today sustainable development and small medium enterprise in the context of Thailand, and that's why we have invited panelists from here. And this is the important part of the dialogue. It is addressed to you. It's not a general debate on how do we save the world. It is really trying to have some ideas on how do we help that to develop in Thailand. And I'm saying that for our panelists so that it is very clear what we talk about later. For us, as the European Union, private sector development is actually something very new. We're very proud to support that all over the world now, but if you look at the policy framework, this came up only in 2011 in what we call the Agenda for Change, which is our basically policy, development policy for the EU. So 2011, 6 years ago, we are doing private sector development. Before that, it was actually no-go for the European Commission. When you do development, you work with government, you work with non-profit organizations, NGOs, but you do not work with private sector because those guys are making profit and we don't see them as actors engaged in developing the economies and developing, and promoting sustainable development. Very clearly in 2010, 2011, we realized that that was a mistake and that we need to engage more with private sector and that it is not because people are making profit, that it is necessarily bad for the society, bad for the people, hence the engagement. So we're very glad to have that discussion here and see how you want to reflect on that. Very briefly, just to say that I mentioned the financial commitment. We are the largest partner. I think as of today, we all know, you all know, this is not enough. Development support is not sufficient to achieve the SDGs. We need everybody to be on board, so the finance is not enough. What we want to do is to promote conducive policies. And this is an area where the EU has quite a lot of experience, because within the EU, within 28 countries, you can imagine that we have a lot of different policies. We have the same goal, sustainable development, but different way to achieve that. And this is something that we are happy, as the EU, we are happy to share with the rest of the world, and we share what works and what does not work, because sometimes you learn more from the experiences that do not deliver than those that work. And this is something the EU is committed to do. Expose, explain what we do. If you like it, as a country, you take it. If you don't like it, you just leave it. We just want to propose and expose what we do, and this is where we think the EU has an added value. Voilà. Let me maybe make a brief introduction to what we will see. The event in Brussels on Thursday, Friday, that specific event was 1 hour and a half, a little bit more. This is too much. We have reduced that, and we will screen something like 30, 35 minutes, where we have selected the best bit of it, which is quite nice. You will enjoy really the best of the debate, where we have identified Mr. Sachs. You probably all know Mr. Sachs. He's a famous teacher, professor, and he will tell you a little bit of what he thinks of that. And we have also identified Mr. Yunus, which was Nobel Prize in 2005 or 2006. The Grameen Bank, very famous example of private sector development, small, medium enterprise development. He will have things to say as well, and I'm sure that our panelists will have some comment on that. And basically, once we have the screening, then we'll just take a quick break, and we come back here to discuss the Thai situation with the panelists that we have selected for you today. Again, thank you very much for being here with us today. Please participate to the panel, to the debate. Ask questions. We have very good and interesting people to talk to you and explain what they do. And I think you can go back home today and learn a lot from this event. And without further ado, Dr. Suppot, maybe I give you the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it is very my great honor to stand side by side with the flag of the European Union. Right, I will read this. Right, I'm very delighted to be here with you today in the discussion of the topic of achieving the SDGs, the role of small businesses, as it is connected occasion to the European Development Day in Brussels during June 7 to 8 of 2017. Unfortunately, they are not really on the same day, but we try. Right? Follow-up may be better. And the event contributes benefit to our audience, not only particular knowledge for the businesses, but also useful, innovative idea to complete the sustainability. I would like to thank our partners, the delegation of European Union to Thailand, and Environmental Engineering Department by myself for Faculty of Engineering to be co-host of this engaging event. I believe that we will continue to organize this remarkable event every year. At the present, to address the global change toward sustainability, we need the practical solution. The government must take responsibility to play an important role. At the same time, it requires to generate the platform for private sector and public sector, especially the small to medium enterprise, to participate in. The question of what and how the small and medium enterprise can contribute to the sustainability is very essential, and so the guideline must be provided. Faculty of Engineering, we probably the largest university in Thailand, but we consider ourselves as a small to medium business as well. We are, as a knowledge builder and human capital, trying to building human resources to the industry or public sector. We're trying to be a leadership for connecting between the government and the business to support innovative knowledge to promote SDGs. We cultivate human resources and opportunities to serve our communities. According to our research themes, to achieve the SDG challenges, they are including the aging society, natural disaster, robotic and digital technology, food, water, and energy nexus, and smart city. Of course, we are a little bit discipline-based, which we're trying to move to be more interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary in the future. We're trying to doing a few things that make our students to be more aware of sustainability. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the European Union of Thailand, our partner, our honorable panelists, and the organizing team. I hope that everyone would benefit from this event and network from this program to apply and make progress and the business and contribution toward SDG. So it is the time that I declare the official opening of the discussion on the topic of achieving SDGs, the role of small businesses, and I wish that the event have a great success. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Hope you had a good coffee and good discussion on the videos that you have seen before. We will now have our panel discussion with our panelists here, and I will just take 1 minute to introduce them very briefly, and I will leave it to you to present yourself a bit more if you feel like it. We start on my left, Miss Villassini. She is working for GIZ, for the German International Cooperation, as a project co-director for a project on green freight, which is actually funded by the German as well as by the European Union. And Ms. Villassini will come and give you a little bit of a development partner perspective on the subject we want to discuss today, which is SDG and small medium enterprise or small businesses. Then we have Professor Surichai. Professor Surichai is basically a professor at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology at Chulalongkorn. And for the sake of the discussion today, all is been prepared. I understand we have a PowerPoint presentation coming up. And that's basically more the university/civil society perspective on the same subject. Then we have another presentation that we expect from, I am lost in my paper, from Mr. Tuniyawat. Apologies for that. You are Assistant Managing Director for Saijo Denki, which is a leading air conditioner manufacturer in Thailand. And this is a big deal in Thailand because there is a massive production of air conditioning here. So we will hear from you a little bit on, again, your perspective on SDG and small medium enterprises. PowerPoint presentation as well. All set, very good. And then we will conclude with Dr. Chanatip from the Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at the faculty here in Chulalongkorn. Thank you for hosting this debate, and we look forward to hear from you right after that. Okay. So if I may, I will just open up with you now. We start from here. We go all the way, and just maybe as a first comment or what you take from the presentation that you have seen before from Mr. Sachs, from Mr. Yunus, and your general perspective on these linkages between SDG and small medium enterprise or small businesses. Thank you.
So first of all, I would like to say thank you for the European Union and Chulalongkorn University for inviting me to being here as a speaker, sharing my experiences with all of you. My name is Vilasini Punudapai, working as a project co-director for the EU-funded project on green freight, working on the freight transport and logistics in the Mekong region. Mekong meaning that covering 5 countries in this region: Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, Laos, and Cambodia. Of course, previous project also working with a lot of SME on the automotive sector, 500, 600 SME. So in terms of experiencing working with SME, I think most of you have heard about from presentation, from the opening remark by the Dean of Faculty, that in terms of industrial structure, so 80%, 90% dominated by SME. They are very powerful in terms of producing a good for us. But of course, look at the structure. Normally, may I give some example from automotive industry? It's a kind of the pyramid where the SME on the in the last line, but they are, I think, 1,000 SME that produce at the 3rd tier, while the first tier only just 9 companies that dominant or the market. So in terms of making the change, I think SME that should be engaged into the what you call the change process. I would say that in Thailand, let's talk about case in Thailand, because I'm not familiar with global SME, but in terms of Thailand, I would say that we have to consider sector by sector. I think in terms of food sector, there are quite a lot of SME or producer that quite aware and well educated about the climate change, environmental or energy issue. But in some sector like automotive or computer chip production, still I would not complain about that. I'm suffer for 5 years working with them, how I can raise the awareness or education among of them. But when I gave up, my boss at that time told me that, Vilasini, we are making the change, and the change is the processes. It takes many years. So we are at the starting point. Of course, that we starting today, maybe 10 years, 20 years until we see the result of the process. But never give up on that. But if we don't start today, so they will have no future for sure. But even we start today, and I love some motto or the quote from my boss that when we talking with the Chiang Mai governor, maybe 10 years ago, when we start the new project on small city. And we want to pilot Chiang Mai and Korat as a small clean air small city. And at that time, the Chiang Mai governor told me that, Vilasini, you cannot do in Thailand because the Thai people lack of discipline. They are very easy, they don't want to change, they're lazy. It's not like the German people that, okay, how they behave. And then my boss at that time told the Chiang Mai governor that, okay, the German people normally doesn't born with the discipline. Discipline had to be built. Then I think that, okay, for our young generation, then like you, they have to be built in the right way. In terms of accessibility, don't talk about like this in university. The people who live in the Ram Chabang, in Rayong, in Chonburi area where our SME located, so they're still far away from what we call SDG. They might ask us that what does it mean for us? So when we talking with them, we have to make the message more simply or simple to understand in that sense. I cannot say, okay, you have to save the energy. You have to save the world because currently we have no energy enough for everybody. How many SME that they know we have to buy the gas from Myanmar? How many SME that they know that currently we buy electricity from hydropower plant from Laos? So most of them, when they have the problem, they always ask the government, hey, I pay the tax. And then the government, your responsibility to support us, to secure energy for us. But they never look at themselves that normally they are a part of the problem. They are the causes of the problem as well. So I think I do not want to blame all of SME, but at least I think in some sector, they are quite aware of this and they have to start with themselves first. Don't just ask from the government to support them. One concept that I was used during working with automobile or automotive sector that we work with the supply chain model, working with the big car maker because GIZ or the Thai government, normally we are the outsider. It's a project had the duration, we have the 4-day, 5-day project. After project end, I quit. I have to move to another project. Of course, that the one who still in the sector is our SME and the private sector. So at that time, I try to think how we can make it the sustain because we are the outsider, we cannot live with them forever. So one thing that we engage the big car maker, either from Japanese car maker like Toyota, Honda, or from European country like Volkswagen, from BMW or from Mercedes-Benz, because Thailand is a hub of car production. It's the Detroit of Asia at that time. It's promoted like that. So make the market oriented. I still believe in that. For Thailand, I think we cannot go back to the 20 or 40 years ago, but we have to, I think in terms of accessibility, make the market driven, market drive itself. For example, I don't know how many person here knowing about green labeling. It's a Thai green label, our own. I know how many person that use the label as a choice when you buy the product. No, still some people say no. Great to know. But I think it takes many years for Thai green label to for being well known. At least I think some people start compared to the first year. No one knows that. Of course, that in terms of car, in terms of product, is the same that we try to use the market in the first period. Government might have to help in terms of providing a subsidy or attribute the mechanism which can drive the market. But in the long run, I would say that I would like to see that market itself can sustain. The people aware, like some people, I think they talk that in the video that don't just when something happens, don't just blame the producer. That okay, you use a lot of electricity, you throw a lot of waste in the ocean, the plastic bag, blah blah blah. But normally, individual person as a consumer, you have your responsibility to take that kind of problem as well. So when you make the choice, when you buy, when you go to the supermarket, then you have the choice to select, okay, 7-Eleven, I don't want the bag. I have my own cotton bag with me. You can do very small action. I still believe in the small action of individual people which normally at the end, the accumulate of the small action can generate the greater impact. But you have to believe in that first. Otherwise, okay, I just very small people live in this planet. How I can contribute to the climate change? Normally, individual people contribute more or less on the climate change issue, and you can help normally. So I think in Thailand with the SME, we have to still working a lot in order to educate them and involve many stakeholders. SME itself cannot make a lot of change if without any environmental enabling system. So you have to map the stakeholder in the landscape. It's a government, it's a SME, the car maker, the tier one, or the exporter, or maybe a supplier, a material supplier. Map them into the landscape of working, and then I think individual can have their own role in order to encourage the successful implementation. So you have to think in the holistic or systematic system to achieve that, how we can make SME to achieve. You can talk about microfinance, but of course microfinance may not relevant to Thailand, but you have to think in another model, working with the formalized bank. Like in Thailand, we have the SME Development Bank, or even some private commercial bank. Currently, they started working with the SME, for example, Kasikorn Bank or Siam Commercial Bank. So a lot of loans that currently try to encourage SME to improve their sustainable production. So I think it depends on the country. From country, you cannot like have one fit to all, but you have to look at case by case. Even in Thailand, from the north to the south, also they have different culture. The people in the south, the people in the north. So when you decide any activity or intervention to intervene the change process of that kind of community, you have to understand their culture, understand their system, and map the stakeholder landscape well, putting the role of each function, and then I think the role will moving well. And don't forget, lastly, that it never ends, believe me, because when you talk about sustainability, it doesn't mean like I'm taking care for 4-year project and I think after 4 years everything will super. But normally it's not end at all, because the development is a rolling process. Today you did this thing successfully, but they will have a lot more problem, a new obstacle coming. So I think it's a rolling, so don't give up about that. Even I'm here for 20 years and then still a new problem coming every year. So it's a rolling, it's a cycle, it's a process. So take time, and then you are a part of, I think all of you, don't underestimate yourself that you cannot make change. So you, just individual person, can make the change, but start with yourself first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you have some good point on the long-term approach, the role of the consumers, the issue of awareness raising. I think you raised also the value chain, something that was mentioned in the video before, so we can have some time to discuss that right after. Professor Surichai, please.
Thank you, Jerome. It is an honor to be a part of this 60-year of EU Development Day. This is a celebration. But the world is so imbalanced. How can EU and Thailand engage in this very imbalanced world? I have maybe some PowerPoint, but I will just use maybe 2 slides. I will rush. The first is the imbalanced world includes even the unpredictability of politics like in the US. So although we have this imbalance, but we also had a very hopeful commitment for SDG in that context. So how can we understand this world? And how can we see Thailand a part of this context? It was very hopeful to listen to Vilasini. We are small people, but we still can do something. But the world is also a big question for us to put ourselves in that context. So just to yes. How in this very big geography of Asia century and America and Middle East and Europe, can we see Thailand in that context? So, but provided we understand this, I think the hopeful language, that message we get from Kun Vilasini is that everyone can have a role. So the question is, how can we bring the scales of our feeling and thinking from individual level, linking with the global, linking with the broader, and how that can be a part. What I learned from the video relates to this. The young girl from Bangladesh, she was struck by industrial disaster called fire, industrial fire, in 1913, where more than 1,000 women workers died in the fire. The collapse of Rana Plaza, it happened 1 year after what we had our own industrial disaster called Kedah industrial accident. In that fire, we lost 170 women workers. But what the trigger of the disaster triggered the hearts and the minds of a woman, like a young woman, like the lady from Bangladesh, as well as trigger the people who are devoted to work for small industries in Thailand, including the ladies who are fired from that kind of industrial disaster affected, and they start their own small home, family business or home business. Later, it came out as new understanding of a new enterprise, new type of enterprise called, maybe someone in this room set up a HomeNet network. So I think this relates to the second point where Mr. Yunus helped us to understand that the way we understand actor in change need to be moved away from only the big companies, which they are important, but if you only think about the big companies, you don't see the meaning, the action of the smaller and meaningful context of transformation at many levels. So in that sense, I think Mr. Yunus help the world to open the eyes to the new possibility of finance, but not big finance, but microfinance, and the role of women who are not often looked at as a meaningful actor in the very, for example, like Bangladesh is a Muslim country. So the forces are from the marginal. So in that sense, I learned from the video that helped me to feel that the scales of thinking and feeling need to be grounded in the reality of what we are facing in each societies. Thailand had it, and Bangladesh also show us something meaningful. So the problem is how to overcome the perception gaps of people looking at the big ones only. They don't see the small ones. How can we see the role of small business, small people in the changing future of our society and the world. That is a big challenge. So we cannot only hope for academic research to move the hearts and the minds. We need the people who really have feelings, who really can be inspired and can inspire people, like Yunus and the lady from Bangladesh. So in that sense, I think we are not against macro planning, but we can see that there are a lot of blind spots in the macro planning, which do not allow us to accommodate new possibilities of small actors, like small people or small business. So in that sense, my key word in this slide would relate to how can we support the learning of people to open to see new possibilities of new actions. So public learning are very important, not just classroom learning. Social learning are so important. So many learning are informal, many learning are out of formal structures. So in that sense, it was good to listen to Dr. Supot mentioning that this university engineering would like to engage more in the real world issues. This slide, you can see that the question maybe relates to this: who are the drivers for the future? So I already emphasized that the small actors can be a driver. But please look at the first line. Globalization have been mentioned a lot, but little have been mentioned about deglobalization. Now we see Mr. Trump is one example of such. He would like to make, slow down the different ways of global trade by strengthening only American brands, for example. But that cannot stop. We also have to understand that consumerism is a part of the globalization. So how to make it more quality-oriented consumerism, not just any kind of consumerism. So that kind of thing relates to how we can increase public learning across. And for that, I think public behavior and social aspects of change are necessary to be understood. We cannot move into the future only rely on one discipline like, although they are so important like medicine or engineering, but we have to work together so that the social context of actors can be also a part of working together in this change. I just would like also to mention that in the context of Thailand, in the context of the US, these days, we need to open up more of the exchange, not to stop the exchange. How to make the exchange between Europe and Thailand more meaningfully in terms of how we can get out of the key question brought by Jan Supot at the beginning. The key word that Dr. Supot mentioned, I thought that was very important in my view, was we are living in a very unsustainable world, and unsustainability cycles are one real forces around us. So the key question for university is how to open up learning, not to close down learning. The key question for society also related to how to open up our learning, not to close down the freedom of discussion. So Thailand also faces a serious challenge in this context. Working with the neighboring Mekong countries, we also need to open up more to face the responsibility. This is the last slide that would relate to the SDGs. The 1 year has passed after SDG has been proclaimed, a little more than 1 year. Where are we now in Thailand? Where are we now? So the question in Thailand is that SDG has been very much high level language of policy making, so much high level that it strengthened the top-down orientation rather than increase more space of learning and horizontal and vertical and also various kinds of integration. So in that sense, I just would like to ask the question, we may need to ask, listening to Kun Vilasini, who owns SDGs? Government is the owner of SDG? I can say yes, but not only government. How can Chiang Mai and Korat cities also own SDGs? How can civil society be a part of this discussion of nationalizing or localizing SDGs? So far, I think we have, I can just say for the word in the slide, you can see Krabi. In Krabi, I just end here, because Krabi is so well known for its tourist attraction, bringing a lot of money into Thailand. The government has committed to build coal-fired power plant. Despite the debate on this, whether coal power plant is an industry of the past or energy for the future. So the decision making still relates to how to make it into reality, the coal power plant. But the Krabi level of this, the local level of decision is very interesting. Now there has been more than 100 enterprises, hotels, and also local factories engaged in Krabi Go Green, Krabi renewable energy in Krabi. So here there is a contestation of future of SDGs implementation. Who owns SDGs? I ask again. Can local people own SDG? In the light of Krabi context, I think we see some very interesting opening of spaces of engagement from the local and the local chambers of commerce, local tourist industries council, including local people who care so much for their livelihoods that owe to the tourist industries, and also the Ramsar site areas. So I just end here that in the light of this SDG after 1 year, maybe this event can help us to learn that opening the space for engagement between here, the role of university become challenged. We cannot. I think this faculty already make it clearer this morning that it hopes to open up and to be a part of cross-disciplinary and also working with the civil society. So along that line, I just end here that the platform of engagement need to be opened up, and for that business, government, and also civil society and local communities need to be a part of this moving out of unsustainable cycles that we somehow have inherited. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you told us a very useful and interesting point, notably when you talk about bringing hope back. I think this is really what we need, and I think when you mentioned about the holistic approach, it's exactly what the SDG are about. I mean, this is why we have 17 goals and 169 sub-dimension of it. So I think this is holistic. But maybe your last point on inclusiveness is probably the most important, and maybe something we go back to at the end of this panel. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Thanyawat Jiti Palangsi. Currently, I am Assistant Managing Director of Saijorenki. As a matter of fact, Saijorenki is a Thai-owned company. 30 years ago, we are a joint venture between Thai and Japanese, but after a few years of cooperation, Japanese side decided to be only trading company, not manufacturing company. So, as a manufacturing company in Thailand, it's become 100% Thai-owned. Currently, Saijorenki have our own research and development team. We are very focused on the development of the new generation of air conditioner, including energy saving and energy efficiency system. Even though in Thailand we are considered as a top 5 air conditioner brand, but globally we are very small comparing to international players. So what I would like to show and discuss today is that it is not that we have to be global multinational company to be innovative, to create the sustainable development. Even Thai local company, medium size or small size comparing to the global competition, we can create new things, new innovations. So let's start one by one. First, even we are 100% Thai-owned company. 3 years ago, we start to export our air conditioner under our own brand name, under our own product development back to Japan. Why Japanese people, they are fully aware that Saijōrenki is not Japanese company. It is a Thai brand. But we export to Japan, which, how can I say, as a matter of fact, Japan is highly nationalism country. They are very high-tech in terms of home appliance. In terms of cost, they have factory in Vietnam, in India, in Africa, which have lower cost than Thailand. So in terms of high technology, it seems they have more technology than Thailand. In terms of cost, they have the production base in the country that have lower level cost than Thailand. So how Saijōrenki can export our air conditioner to Thailand under our own brand, under our own development? The only way is the innovation. We develop the air conditioner that never exists in the Japan before, and we deliver such value. For example, energy saving or smartphone connection to monitor power consumption of the air conditioner to Japan. So with our proud that as a Thai people, we normally are consumer of home appliance product, but now we begin to be exporter to Japan. We put Thai flag in our air conditioner that we export to Japan. We proudly show to them that not only Japan export product to Thailand, but now as a Thai people, we are not production based anymore. As the Saijōrenki Thai local owned company, we are innovative. We are Thai people, local people that have brain to think about new product. Again, all our development team is only Thai people. 40-50 engineers, no foreigners. All of these 40-50 engineers graduate only from Thai university. None of them study abroad in terms of engineering. So it means that as a local company, as a Thai company, we can create sustainable development. We can create innovation by our own, not only multinational company. Not only that, we are exporting to Singapore. Our challenge is that we are not well-known brand name in Singapore. In terms of economy of scale, we are not the biggest. We are not among the multinational or large company. So we cannot compete in cost. We cannot compete in brand name. So we need to compete in technology. We need to compete in differentiation. So Saijōrenki, as a Thai company again, we develop the most energy-saving air conditioner and export to Singapore. This chart is the ranking from NEA, National Environmental Agency. They rank Saijōrenki air conditioner as #1 most energy-saving AC in Singapore. While they have more than 400 air conditioner model in Singapore, more than 30 international brand. But as a Thai brand, we can be #1 with our own R&D team. Also, JARN, JAN, which is Japanese Air Conditioning Refrigeration newspaper from Japan. They have the news that Saijōrenki received Energy Globe Award from High Energy Saving AC and a lot of development in terms of energy savings. Not only that, now people talk about Thailand 4.0, not 0.4, Thailand 4.0 or Industry 4.0, smart things. Again, it's not that we are local or medium-sized company and we cannot develop such smart thing. We are one of the first manufacturer in Thailand and in the world that can connect air conditioner to the internet, to smartphone. All of the software, all of the hardware design, every part of the air conditioner design is done by our engineer. This air conditioner alone have more than 100,000 lines of source code to be embedded in the system. We have 6 MCU, let's say 6 brain in the air conditioner to function this AC. Even Michael Dell, I think everyone in this room know about Michael Dell, founder and the CEO of Dell Computer Company. Personally, I do not know Michael Dell, of course. None of SaiJoinki employee know about Michael Dell. Know Mr. Michael Dell personally. But with our own innovation, with our own development, fortunately, Michael Dell know that we are among the first of the air conditioner manufacturer who connect the air conditioner to the internet. So Michael Dell sent the Twitter acknowledge and accredit about SaiJoinki innovations. Proudly say this is 100% developed by Thai engineers, graduate from Thai University. So what we always, as a medium-sized company, we always look what is new things. But to think new thing is not enough for now because everyone thinking for new things. We need to look 2 or 3 steps ahead. Last year, SaiJoinki registered more than 20 patent invention patent in Thailand. In 1 year, Thailand, as a all country, we register 7,000 patents. Unfortunately, 90% is registered by foreign companies or foreigners. So only 10%, approximately 700 invention patent developed, registered by Thai company. And SaiJoinki, only one company, we register 20 patents. So it means 2 or 3% of the inventive patents is registered by our company. One of the technique is that we always think what is a new. Not only new. We need to think what is new. Again, what is newer? Again, what is newer? So 2 or 3 steps ahead. This is always the discussion in the company to create the new product, to create the innovation. If we only looking 1 step ahead, it cannot be innovation because everyone will think the same. So we are thinking what is the smart air conditioner? What is the new smart? First, smart AC to control, turn on, turn off, set temperature of the AC. This is the normal one that we think. Again, now we develop smart engineer, we develop artificial intelligence software embedded in the air conditioner. The air conditioner can know by itself what is the problem inside the air conditioner, which part of the air conditioner has the problem. More than 30 error messages we can show in the smartphone. Not only error code 1, error code 2, error code 3, we can show in human language, Thai language, English, Japanese, Vietnamese, and service engineer or technician. Normally they do the service by trial and error basis. Let's say if they find the problem in the air conditioner, they will try to change the spare part one by one until finish trial and error basis. So when we know the error code and show in the smartphone, technician can click in the error code itself and it will link to the YouTube that the company make the video to show the service engineer how to solve the problem of the AC. They can follow the clip by the YouTube. This is again our innovations. The last one, I think this one is most related to the topic here, is the smart energy. The air conditioner, the smartphone that can connect to air conditioner can show electricity bill. Can show power consumption and electricity consumption. Today, how many hours the AC run? How much power cost in terms of Thai baht per day, per month, per week? Let's say, so we can know each air conditioner power consumption rate. Also, we are partnership with the World Bank Group to develop the R32 refrigerant in the air conditioner. We are one of the fastest or one of the manufacturer that convert our refrigerant to R32. We can say we are mostly number 1 in Asia, excluding Japan. So World Bank give the press release, the news about SaiJoinki, that SaiJoinki as a Thai manufacturer can be a good success case in this refrigeration conversion project. Okay, I will skip this. Is the refrigerant usage trend that we use. So what I try to say in my PowerPoint and in the presentation is that to be a sustainable, to participate in the sustainable development, as the professor asked, not only government, but everyone should participate. We do not look down on ourselves that we are local company, we are not European, we are not US, we are not Japanese, then we cannot create new things. It's very wrong to think like that. As the company, as the individual, we are free to think about new things, and we have to have power to create them, communicate them, and make it finish. I believe this is the good human being step. So sustainable development, or sometimes in production we call continuous development, is the key for human. Because I believe human is based on evolution. Evolution means we develop every day. So one part of the development that we develop every day is the sustainable development. This is how the world exists, and this is how the society will evolve. So we call sustainable development, SDG, in my idea, is one of the human evolution. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't know if you're busy this afternoon, but you can come back to my place. I need fixing on my air conditioning. It's really. But if I may, I think you raised three very good points. The first one where you say that Thai people have brains, and I think this is very true. And it connects to what Dr. Supota said. They have brain because they have people to train and to teach. And I think this is a very important point. People need to be educated if we want things to change. So that's a good point for Thailand. Then you really mentioned the role of innovation here and new approaches, in particular to make gain on energy efficiency. And all what you mentioned here is actually very important to us because, you know, we have commitment to fight against climate change. And many people would tell you that this is all about renewable energy, but actually it's not. More than 50% of the progress will be achieved through efficiency, energy efficiency. So what you do is actually very important, not only at the level of individuals, but also at the general level. This is where the gain will be made. So I think that this is a very important point. And it connects to the small businesses, because if you look at the way the business model for small businesses, there is a lot of sunk cost. There is a lot of cost that you do business or not, you still have to pay. Air conditioning and electricity is about that. So if you can save money for the little people that are trying to do business, this is a very positive element for that, to promote business and make sure it's more sustainable. So thank you for the input. Dr. Chanati, please.
Thank you very much. It is also my honor to be part of this panel. And I would like to take this opportunity to reflect instead of to give my opinion. I learned a lot from listening to the discussion this morning and from the speakers. And I hope that everyone feels the same, that the SDG give us a hope. So if we don't have an SDG today, we continue to develop on the pathway that we are on, it will be unsustainable. Because as our dean reflected this morning, I think he gave a very important highlight. Are we, in terms of engineers or new generation, are we part of an unsustainable world, unsustainable society? The answer is yes, if we continue to do the same as we do today. Is it a time that we need to set a direction, which is already provide a lot of consensus and brainstorming? It ended up to be this number of goals. It doesn't mean that at that point in 2030s, we will be sustainable per se, because it's a continuing process, but it set a sense of hope. I think a sense of, at that time, we will set something I always call enabling environment for our future generation to be able to live in this society and enjoy it as the way we living today. So I call myself, reflect myself in part of academics or a researcher. So it always, most of the time, we try to create knowledge and informations and contribute to build, to raise awareness, to cultivate new generations to be part of, I would say, new innovation, new interventions. This is what we need. Is we need to maybe ask ourselves, are we going to let ourselves be within the same paradigms, be mass production, mass consumption without thinking to disconnect ourselves. Disconnecting is also part of a point that Professor Yunus has mentioned to us. If we still thinking that the main way, the only way that will we continue growing, the growth that we have is to grow with the conventional or traditional business, we will going in the same pattern without inclusiveness. And he bring a lot of keywords that I think I throw it back to the floor, that you have to define a new definition of jobs. Don't let others create your own jobs. You need to think what is your own creations by thinking what can you contribute, what is your value, what is your knowledge, what is your ability to do to others. That values will bring incomes, and of course will bring demands. If you let others demand you, you will be only, I would say, a victim of the system or society. Why don't you take that as a power to redefine jobs? And that's, I don't have any control with financing system, but that's why we need to bring a government, we need to bring business to redesign and create what we call a policy to create enabling environment. So small people or small business or everyone in different sector can be part of the development. Because at this moment, if you don't fit in the conventional development kind of business, you have no opportunities. If you don't have collateral, you don't have a part of guarantees of whatever, you cannot get a loan approval. How can we create more and more of a system that enabling small business, enabling people? And it's a time. I think this is the perfect timing that I did not believe this until we have a powerful internet. It seems like the world has limitless. The world is full of opportunities. It's up to us to define. Because the only thing we need is innovation. We need to think outside the box. We need to invent. Not only engineering invention, but I will bring it back again. What is a core value? What is people needs? What is the problem that they need? And can you fill that gap? Can you solve that problem? It's not that difficult. Sometimes I love Panda service. Did you have ever using the internet service about food delivery? This kind of business is start from very simple thinking that where is the need? There is a market for work and market for job. So I like to point out the last thing that I think it's important that all of us has to help each other to drive sustainable development. They only feel strategy. Most of the time we provide, or I call it supply push. We always think if we create green markets, there will be a growth of green products. That's why a lot of policy from the government to promote green SME or whatever that you can put green. But we let alone another part of cycle is demand, which is very difficult. How can we raise awareness of citizens? The more we raise awareness of citizens, for example, local communities, national, or even global, to see an importance of sustainable consumptions. I would call demand pools. How can educations, how can civil society, how can every sector be part not only from supply push, but ask yourself, can we be a good consumer? can we contribute whatever jobs we do, create green consumptions, so that will complete a circle of driving business. And most of the time, I love I don't remember which one of our speakers said, SDG is high-level language. When we talk in class, my students always have a blank in their eyes. What is SDG? What is it related to us? So we need to bring more of the example from the ground, how we ground up the SDG and make it real. I like the example from Saijo Denki and from GIZ that they work with the real problem and they drive it up and they show that development can be sustainable. But how can we share more and more of this example up into our discussion? Okay, I leave it up very brief. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And maybe before we open the floor for a few questions from the public, just to sum up a little bit, when you talk about sustainability and greening of the economy, I think this is a very important point that we should take home. And the role of consumption, I think it was raised before. This is essential at the end of the day, because everything that is produced is for our own sake. We like it or not, it is there for us. And then maybe I would have one question, but I will speak after the public. It's on the enabling environment, because I think this is where maybe we can do some sort of a difference, but I keep it for the discussion later. We have a microphone. We do. So if we have question, I see one gentleman. Then yeah, we start with you, sir. Thank you.
My name's Jonathan Schott from Sustainable Development Foundation, a Thai NGO working with rural communities and farmer and fisher populations, working with ethnic minority groups. It's not really a question, but I just wanted to draw something out that's maybe been a little bit overlooked in the discussion. I think we sometimes get tripped up with the word sustainability, and we think just about the green side, the environmental side. But we shouldn't forget that in the Sustainable Development Goals, there's a lot about social protection, about ensuring nutrition, health, income, and education. So I think we really need to focus on the social protection side as well. And I'd like to link that back to two comments from the video that we saw. From Professor Sachs, he said that SMEs are not very able to take on social burdens, and they're not very good at insuring their workers. So a good example from Thailand would be migrant workers can access social protection schemes in Thailand, but only if their Thai employer registers them. And a lot of Thai employers don't want that happen. They don't register the workers, and they miss out on the social protection benefits they should receive. So there's a whole social protection area that we can be working on with SMEs. And then Dr. Yunus's point that he said about everybody's an entrepreneur. I think a lot of people working in Thailand at the moment are below me level. They're subsistence farmers or subsistence fishers. And there's an opportunity maybe, if we're talking about SME, to raise the level of the activities these people are doing and make them into entrepreneurs and make them into SMEs, so that we can improve their access to social protection like education and healthcare, maybe raise their income and their food security. And here maybe there's a little bit of donor education required as well. In so many projects where we're requesting funding from donor organizations, there's a criteria that says that you're not allowed to provide rotating funds or financial support mechanisms to the recipients in the field. You're only allowed to do kind of grassroots activities or educational or policy work. But based on Dr. Yunus's comments, finance is oxygen for these small groups. So maybe that's something that the EU needs to consider in its long-term strategy as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We may want to react here. Is there any other question, comments from the floor? Don't be shy.
Hello, thank you everyone for your participation. Just one question. If you're talking to someone working in SME, what do you tell him to convince him or her that, well, working towards sustainability is an opportunity, is something that they will gain from. It's not going to be a waste of their time and money, because as enterprises they think also about profit and they cannot think only about sustainability. So how do you convince them? What do you tell them? What would be the speech? Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we start to answer? Maybe the first and the second intervention, you take the point you feel like you can provide some responses or some comments.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that if we using the SDG wording and to tell them, it's difficult, it's hard to understand. Okay, energy saving, you have to save the world. It's difficult to understand, but of course I have to translate my language in very simple way. Like, okay, if you save energy, then you can save money automatically. Normally, basic like that. Are you engineer? Because you are engineer, you understand this logic well. But in fact, that sometimes it's not easy like that, because saving money is something you see the figure in the cash flow, in the Excel sheet. It's not like something that is tangible, is touchable in their hands. It's something, okay, saving energy, saving money, something running in the air, something like that. So we have to visualize, we have to make it tangible for them in that sense that one thing, okay, save energy. Another thing that during my experience working with many sectors like organic farming, automotive sector, paper sector, we have to get the involvement of the buyer to make the market real, like Saijo Denki. If I would say that after listening to Saijo Denki, I may ask for two things. You may have the Thai supplier, right? So better in terms of the procurement, internal procurement, you have to looking for a Thai company, the SME, that of course that they contribute in terms of energy saving, make the green procurement internally, so that could increase the market for the Thai SME. When they say the market opportunity, okay, I have to comply to the green procurement if I want to be the supplier of Saijo Denki. So it creates the market opportunity for them if they apply for the energy saving, environmental issue, blah, blah, blah. Another thing, I think, I like the idea in terms of innovation. So innovation, when you have to change your processes to be more environmental friendly or energy efficiency, is sometimes innovation need R&D, need the money for investment. May I give one example? 2 years ago, when I brought the Thai SME to visit a German company with the supplier of, I think, Mercedes-Benz. They are very good message that normally even they are the small SME, the small company, normally they allocated 12% of their profit annually for R&D, for innovation. So when I come back to the group and I ask my group of SME, how many SME in my hand that currently have this kind of vision? It needs something like vision that, okay, you allocate your 12% of your profit annually for R&D, because every year you have to create, you have to develop your product. You cannot sell the product like 10 years continuously. You have to create the new one that, what you call, touch the market. You can gain the attention from your buyer or your tier one or your car maker. So I think that I would ask from the, what you call, the tier one company or international company that you work with the Thai SME, Thai supplier. Two things. One is you also should transfer the technology, know-how and knowledge. Not look at the Thai company as your supplier, but also that your partner, your partnership in developing the long-term vision of partnership, transfer the knowledge, support in terms of going up business together in the green way. That I think could be my comment.
Maybe to relate to the questions or the observation, the issue of SDG need to be opened up more, going beyond just the environmental aspect of issues. That is well taken. But we need a lot of efforts to do it together. In the context of Thailand, I think the public space of discussion of this kind have been shrunk. So how can we bring and create, in the word of Dr. Chanatip, enabling environment? I mean, we need a platform of SDGs to engage diverse stakeholders. I think this would be a way to open up, because who will decide our future? The future should belong to everyone to be a part of discussion. New generation of people, new actors, even small people or small business that someone you ask, how should we tell the small business? We don't need to tell them. I think they are working very hard, but we need space of engagement with the future that we have to live together. There should be no barrier of such. So I think in the light of these future-oriented challenges, we have a lot to work together. I really feel that environmental questions are very serious, and it cannot only, my second point then, it cannot be answered by technical innovation alone. Not technical orientation alone. I agree, we need technical orientation, technical innovation. But even more is how to create space which is not technical. ICT cannot give freedom of discussion, because ICT can be used by fake news. You can get Priel. You see, so ICT is not empowering as much as it may imply, but it also gives a new challenge to our sense of making that we have to live together. And there are many diverse kind of people in our society. So in that sense, I say technical innovation alone is not a solution. But we have to accommodate technical innovation in the context of social. So I think social innovation, public engagement are the serious question that we work together, so that we don't make people feel that they are not included. So the last point would relate to this inclusiveness. How can we have a future without a sense of inclusiveness? It's only a big people's future. It's already rich people's future. And that cannot be sustainable. Rich country future, not sustainable. So the whole earth cannot have a future with only thinking about the big people, big actors. So I think SME discussion today is just to relate to everyone. Everything small can be meaningful, and it can trigger new innovation. Using ICT can be a new vehicle for message of inspiration, like the lady from Bangladesh learned from Rana Plaza. And so we can learn from several things. So I heard from Saijo Denki, he make it very understandable. So I really appreciate. In some way, we need an understandable language across disciplines. So with that, I feel SDG can have a lot of potential, but so far it has been so limited language of command and also order. But the sense of ownership need to be created But that cannot be created by order. It needs to be created by enabling environment of engagement and inclusion.
Thank you.
Hello. In my idea for SME to, let's say, to pursue sustainable development, first, I think if SME or private company think that this is the way to grow the business, or this is the way that business will survive, eventually they will do by their own. And I believe nowadays to grow the business, to increase the revenue from the business, to make customer loyalty, we need to do it right way, not only profit, but profit and society. So I believe the only way, let's say, the only way that private sector will do is that they will grow. They will survive by this method. If they can think like this, they will do. But if they think only that they can cheat and they can grow the business, 100 words to them, 100 hours of training to them, no meaning. So if the society, if the marketing, if the communication to the society force the company or let the company think that to do, sustainable development is the way to grow and to survive, automatically it's the market mechanism to do it. Yes, so, yeah.
Thank you for the comment about balancing between 3 pillars of sustainable development. I could not agree more. I think we heavily focus on economic growth for such a long time, for many decades, and now we start to balance with environmental protection and social equity and inclusiveness. I think that's have a good development, and we start to have to more and more emphasize the mixture and the balance between the 3 pillars. And I like to put the last, I think when I see the world, sometimes I see it's really, really big. The world is big, I'm really small, I can not do things. But sometimes I think the world is not that big, it's very small. I can travel to different corners of the world within a day. So it's small than we think. So I think the power of changing the world is not that hopeless. I think if we realize how important the individual's efforts and your own creativity can do, but we just need to connect. I think small part of our student learning microbiology, you realize being humans, we have DNA, right? And we have molecules with all of that connection. It will not be humans and will not be this beautiful system. And I think this is what we have to remind ourselves. The world is big, but it's not that big. And it's not too big. Together we can do a lot of things. But the only thing we need, I think we have to create a space for connectivity of our own creativities. We just have to find a space that supply and demand can meet. My last example, I'm very impressed. Last week, I learned that in Thailand, we have one small organization they call Jit Asa Bank. They banked the times of people who volunteer to do volunteer jobs. Now they have, if you believe, million hours of volunteers' time. How can we find a job that spend these valuable labors? We have to create a space or platform where demand and supply can meet. And this is just one example. I think there are more and more platforms, and I consider myself an old generation. So I also want to give a hope to a new generation with full of creativities, and I'll be a good follower. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're not old generation, I am, and so you're just fine. Look, I think it is about time for us to conclude, and it is difficult to draw conclusion on this kind of large subject. But let me take the privilege of giving you a few points. I will bring home. I think the first is awareness raising is needed. I think SDG is good. We know here what it is. I don't think everybody knows, and we still have to continue and promote that, because at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to achieve. My second point would be what you just have behind you here: partner for sustainable consumption and production. I think it's sum up a little bit the two aspects. It's not just about production, it's also about consumption, and this is how we can achieve sustainable development. So this is actually a very important panel. It's not by chance that this is just there. My third point would be to indeed agree with the comment that was made. This is not just about environment or greening of the economy, it's also about social development. And from our point of view, it's a lot about developing decent work, and something we didn't discuss enough, gender. Gender is a very important point. We were very happy to have a balanced panel in that context, but I think it's an important point also for SDGs. One point that has been made also, which is important, is the change of perspective, to go from short-term gain to long-term gain. And I think this is very relevant for anybody which is in business. They have to try to change the way they look at it. It is not easy, but I think it's a way to look at the future that everybody should be explained what's the point and why should we look in the long-term perspective more than the short-term perspective, even in business. And this is something big in finance these days, but I think it's valid for everybody involved in economic development. Maybe one little point on small businesses. I think it is important today. I think it is growingly important in the future, very simply because this is where the jobs will be. If you look at the last 50 years, you will find that plenty of people have found jobs with public services, civil servant, with big companies all over the world. But then, gradually things are changing. Those big companies are employing less people. The government are shrinking as well, and you have more and more people that are faced with trying to find their own business, their own work, create their own job for themselves. And that this is the very reason why we should continue to promote that, because more and more people will be on their own, and they need to be explained how they can contribute to the SDG business. And ultimately, I think it was raised by my colleague here, SDGs are a business opportunity as well. It's just a different way of looking at it, but there are business opportunities in promoting SDGs. And if I may, on the final point, which I think is fundamental for us as the EU, it's about the policy environment. This is very important, that we help partner countries to create a business environment, a policy-making environment that is conducive to discussing SDGs, to promoting small business, and that is, it has been explained, that is inclusive, that includes private sector, that includes civil society, government, and everybody in the society that is interested in its development. And in that context, I'm very proud that the EU is actually supporting the NESDB in this SDG roadmap for Thailand, together with Coady and together with Chulalongkorn University as well. There is a grouping of those organizations with support of experts from the EU to try to develop an engagement roadmap for civil society and private sector. And that is really inclusiveness. And maybe we're just at the beginning of it, but this is really the right way to go about it. It will take time, but I think we have started, we've taken the first step, and I agree with all of you raising that issue of inclusiveness. This is a key element for us. And maybe the final one, you've said it as well, we can all do something about it, and I think by sitting here, we're trying to raise the awareness on that, and that's already the beginning of that. So on that point, I would like to thank the panelists for your very good contribution today. I'd like to thank all the audience as well. Thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you for Chulalongkorn to organize all that for us, and my colleagues to have set it up. And I wish you bon appétit. The lunchbox are outside. Thank you very much.